Hi friends, hello, hi, how are you? I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Hello, hi. Today's video, well actually before we jump into the video, just like one quick thing. I mentioned a few videos back, so like 25 years ago, that I lost my Instagram account. They deleted it because I posted a photo in a bathing suit. I finally figured out how to get a new Instagram account, so I'm gonna tag that down below if you guys want to go follow it. I'm trying to build up on there, trying to actually post more of my personal life on there, so if you guys want to go check that out, that would be great. Same thing with my TikTok. I think my TikTok is, I think it's just Smokey Glow. I'm pretty sure the TikTok is just Smokey Glow. Editing Hannah, let me know. But if you guys want to go follow those platforms, that'd be super cool. We're trying to boost them, so yeah. Hi, so today's video, we are going to be doing an internet history video, baby. I love doing internet history videos. It's a concept I came up with a while ago. Basically just going through periods and time frames on the internet when things got weird. Today's is going to be on the Sister Squad. I wanted to do this video because I felt like it might be a little bit more lighthearted than some of my other internet history videos or some of my other evolution of videos, only because at the end of the day, what ultimately happened here was just like a friend breakup between a bunch of rich people. And I've been wanting to do this video for years at this point, because I've always found the Sister Squad and just the chemistry they all had. And I also think the way that they sort of redefined what a collaboration could be and made collaborations between YouTubers cool again is super fascinating. And there's just a lot of drama and tea surrounding this particular group, so I thought it'd be fun to talk about. I was around for a lot of this stuff as it happened, which I'm sure some of you were around for it too, hence why you clicked on the video. And going back and looking at all of this, I found it super interesting just how they became such a phenomenon, and also the breakup of them was such a huge deal at the time, and also the kind of comeback that each participant of the Sister Squad has had in individual ways. Yeah, I think that's gonna be super interesting. So if you guys want to hear about the rise and the subsequent downfall of the Sister Squad, keep watching. Sorry, my leg in frame. Is that weird? Is it weird if I sit like this? Does it look... I'm sitting on the floor, so. The very first tagline of this script is, "Who are they and why do we care?" And I just thought that was funny. And the first bullet point I put was, "Great question, I'd love to tell you." So, the Sister Squad was a YouTube friend collab group that included the Dolan twins, Emma Chamberlain, and James Charles, who all posted their first 3 videos together back in 2018. Now, before we kind of jump into what actually ended up making them all come together and post these first few video collabs, I think it's important to do just like a brief summary of where all 4 of these people were at in their career during this time. This was like peak beauty guru, pre-big scandal James Charles. This was before Bye Sister. This was before basically everything that happened with him. James's beauty career really took off in 2015, but by 2017, 2018, he was definitely one of the top beauty gurus on YouTube. He worked with tons of different brands. He was super, super popular in the beauty space. I would honestly consider this one of the peaks of his career. Equally, the Dolan twins had amassed an insane audience, with most of their content kind of revolving around them just being twins and doing twin stuff. I feel like there is a whole subset of YouTube that is just twins being twins and being famous for being twins, and I find it to be absolutely fascinating. That could be a whole video in and of itself. But the Dolan twins were probably 2 of the most famous people in that sort of era. They were part of the Great Vine migration to YouTube back in 2015, and like we've seen with a ton of people that we've looked into sort of the background of their channels and careers, they used their Vine platform heavily to become so popular on YouTube. Now, they really got popular because they just posted silly, goofy videos on the internet, but really they got so popular because they had an incredibly young fan base that was obsessed with them in a romantic way, like wanted to date them. It kind of reminds me of One Direction stans or Jonas Brother fans, where everybody had a person that they were like in love with and wanted to marry. Mine was Nick Jonas. Back in my day. Really, you just stand that person because you were like in love with them. But I think that the Dolan twins were unique in that they had such a parasocial relationship with their fans, and they really played into that narrative because they were so meetable. Like, you could go to VidCon and meet them. You could watch their videos and actively get to know them. And honestly, this isn't a new original format. Like, young, attractive dudes kind of playing off a young female fan base. This happens constantly. We see it in boy bands. We see it on the internet. It's a very common thing, but the Dolan twins were really, really good at it. And back in 2017, 2018, they too, similarly to James Charles, were really at a peak in their career. They were garnering millions of views a video. And if you're noticing a pattern here, this was also a time when Emma Chamberlain was starting to absolutely skyrocket on the internet. She's pretty famous for going viral basically overnight. I'm pretty sure the first video she ever posted got like hundreds of thousands of views. She was definitely a Did I do an evolution of Emma Chamberlain? I really want to. God, I've posted too many videos now because I don't remember. Oh my God, I did do one 3 years ago. Well, we're gonna do another one probably. Anyway, because her career has been insane. But at this point in her career, she was definitely not so much doing more Hollywood things like she does now. She was definitely mostly just a content creator. And this was also during the time when Emma Chamberlain sort of popularized that editing style where you zoom in a lot, you do funny voices, you do funny voice effects. Her content was very sporadic and funny at this time. And this was really when she was rising to the top. And when the Sister Squad was forming, this is when she had just moved from the Bay Area in California to Los Angeles, which I think is interesting because it kind of marks a time period where a lot of people would say that Emma Chamberlain had changed or gone to LA kind of situation. So I think that plays into the Sister Squad as well, just something to note. And all of these creators had done collaborations with other channels up until this point. And what I think is so fascinating about all 4 of these people in the moment in time when they decided to do these collaborations and become this squad is that you basically had 4 creators who were not only all in very much peaks of their career at that moment, but also had different enough content that they would have overlapping fans, but also some fans that wouldn't be overlapping, that they weren't necessarily direct competition with each other. Up until the Sister Squad, a lot of YouTube collaborations that we had seen consisted of people in the same genre of YouTube doing videos together. If you were a makeup person, you did collaborations with other makeup people. If you were in the lifestyle genre, you did it with other lifestyle people. So it's not that this concept of being a squad or doing a collaboration with a group of people was necessarily new. I think that the way that this one stood out and became so famous, that all of them were definitely different. It was kind of weird. It's like they were like the same channels in different fonts. Does that make sense? Now, as far as how the Sister Squad actually ended up getting together, I'm gonna say the word Sister Squad so many times in this video. Oh my God. As far as how the Sister Squad sort of got together and got their big start, it seems like the link between the 3 different groups of people was James Charles. James Charles and Emma Chamberlain had met when she first came to LA. There's vlogs of him like dyeing her hair brown when she was visiting looking for an apartment. And James Charles and the Dolan twins had already been friends and done collaborations as well. Mostly where he like did their makeup and they did his makeup. So they'd already kind of collabed and him and Emma knew each other. So it seems like James Charles was kind of like the glue at the beginning of this. It seems like Emma was kind of the odd one out at first. The Dolan twins and James had a relationship for almost a year when they filmed their very first 4-person collaboration together. They had already been friends for a pretty long time. In those collaborations that I just mentioned, it seemed like they had a pretty genuine connection and stayed actual genuine friends, not just internet friends. Although this is going to be the big debate of the video, is were they actually friends or not. But according to all of them, they were genuine friends. And then when Emma moved to LA, they kind of just incorporated her into the group as well. And I think another interesting point to note about how the Sister Squad got started and why it probably made so much sense to these creators at the time to go into something like this is that all 4 of these creators had a very family-friendly image. Like even Emma, even though she would swear, she still had a pretty family-friendly image. Young kids watched her and really liked her. Same thing with the Dolan twins, same thing with James Charles. All of these creators had pretty young and really, really advertisable fan bases. And I think again, that's why their brands, even though they were different, all made sense. And when I talk about things like this, I often wonder if that's what the thought process is that went into them making their first few videos. I wonder if they all were like, yeah, we're all pretty family friendly. We all have kind of different followings, but it's not too different. We can make this cool content and cross promote. Like, I wonder if the intention was to become this big drama-filled YouTube collab friend group, or if they just were like, hey, this would be an easy video to do and it'd be easy to monetize and get some followers. Like, I always wonder what the thought process was. First collaboration that the 4 of them ever did. Also, if I ever say the 3 of them, it's because I'm putting the Dolan twins together in my brain. I'm just morphing the 2. They are separate people. I apologize. Did their first collaboration in June of 2018, and these videos went massively viral. In Emma's video, they vlogged her trying to be an LA girl. They took her to a Gucci store. It was very much in the style of Emma Chamberlain vlogs at this point in time. In James's video, he tried to teach all of them how to do makeup through a wall, which actually at the time was a pretty interesting concept, which to James Charles's credit, which he doesn't deserve a lot, he had really solid and creative video ideas, and that was one that ended up becoming a trend on YouTube, was trying to coach your friends who don't do makeup how to do makeup with a wall blocking you out. And the Dolan twins did a mukbang with their brand of humor and style. And again, all three of these videos went insanely viral. They got tens of millions of views. It was an unprecedented level of success for a collaboration. And I think what is interesting is that James and the Dolan twins had collabed before, and those videos did well, but adding Emma Chamberlain, the new kind of fresh face of YouTube, into the mix is really what set these videos above everything else. I think people were so obsessed with Emma Chamberlain at this time, and I think that her success gave, even though James and the Dolan twins had more followers than her, she definitely had a more, how do I put this, like, dedicated fan base. This is what I think is interesting about YouTube, is that you can have more followers than a person, but if you don't have engaged fans, it doesn't mean anything. Like, Emma definitely was the one with the least amount of subscribers, but she had the most engaged stans, really, people that were just obsessed with her, that I think really carried the success of these videos. Between all three of these videos, they are right now currently sitting at 77 million views, which is absolutely insane for any collaboration on YouTube. And what I think is interesting is that while they all shared a similar sense of humor or a similar sense of sort of how to make content, like they definitely had major similarities in how they did things, their personalities were different enough that you could find sort of one person that you connected with. Like a lot of people connected with Emma, or a lot of people connected with Ethan Dolan. You almost had your favorites in the group. You had James, who was the sort of dramatic one that people really connected with. You had Emma, who was the more relatable, down-to-earth one. The Dolan twins were just like typical kind of, I don't even know how to describe the Dolan twins, honestly. It was very typical pre-frat boy behavior, but not in a bad way, in like a, that's just how I would describe them, was like pre-frat boy. But people related to that. They related to that sense of humor. I also think what they did that was super interesting was when they did these collaborations, it wasn't just, normally YouTube collaborations, how they would work is you would go to one person's sort of studio or setup, and you would sit down at that person's setup and you would film a video, and then you would film back to back another video for the other person's channel in the same setup. It would be like the whisper challenge, and then we're gonna do a Q&A, get ready with me, and that was the two videos. Like, that's all they did. These videos were interesting because they all went to each other's personal sets. For Emma's, they started in her apartment and then vlogged going to the mall. James's was in his very typical white beauty room. The Dolan twins had their little background and they had the twins go there. They had an intro with them. And the other interesting thing about these videos is because each of these three creators had their own unique sort of editing, you definitely got to see a different side of the creator than you would normally see. Like James's channel was usually so polished and really well put together, but when he was seen in Emma's vlogs, he was falling down, he was walking around, he was running around. It was like a different version that you got to see of him in a different context on YouTube. And their editing styles were so different that you still felt like you were watching an Emma Chamberlain video when you were watching the collaboration, or you still felt like you were watching a James Charles video, but it made you want to watch all three because everything was so different and so dynamic. I also think what sets them apart from other YouTube collaborations that happened in the past is that none of these relationships felt super forced. They didn't feel like PR relationships. A lot of times when collaborations would happen on YouTube, it was primarily because somebody had something to promote, or you wanted to promote or boost your channel. This just genuinely felt like a group of friends that was just hanging out. There wasn't any sort of promotion. There wasn't, especially in the beginning, wasn't any sort of PR or really trying to get anything out of it. It seemed like just four people who enjoyed each other's company. Now, because of the success of this first round of videos, obviously the four of them decided to do it again, which, like, duh, of course they would. If you get that many views off of something and people love it that much, you're gonna do it until it runs into the ground, basically, or in this case, until it self-implodes. They did videos around Halloween time where James did everyone's Halloween makeup, and in this video, he did actually promote his new Morphe James Charles palette. This was like a teaser for it before he actually announced it. In Emma's video, they all dressed up as each other, and in the Dolan twins video, they went to a haunted house. And again, all of these videos videos continued to thrive for the same reasons that I just talked about. It was different enough personalities that all seemed to genuinely mesh, and everybody ate this up. The one thing that started to become very interesting about these videos, which I don't really care about this part, but it is a very integral part of sort of the internet lore around the Sister Squad, is that Emma Chamberlain and Ethan Dolan seemingly started dating during this time, and this drove especially their younger fan base absolutely insane. The amount of videos about Ethma that I saw floating around the internet during this time were crazy. Fans were like detectives trying to figure out if the two of them were actually together or not, because they were very secretive about that relationship. There were pictures of them together on like a jet ski, or pictures of them at Coachella together. Like those all existed, but there was never any definitive proof that they were dating, and they never explicitly said one way or another. However, what they did start doing, especially in this second round of collaborations, is lean into it just a little bit so that people would be commenting, talking about it. Like in the haunted house video for the Dolan twins, he would be like holding her hand at one point or grabbing for her, and everybody would be like time stamping that exact moment and writing dissertations on why this meant they were together. It was like a whole huge thing. I find it really fascinating because I think that more so than Emma Chamberlain, I think that the Dolan twins really utilized this sort of semi-relationship, whatever it was, to garner views. Like, I think if we're looking back at this time, especially if we're looking at these first few rounds of videos that they did together, James Charles and the Dolan twins at this point had been online for years. They'd been famous online for years. When you're famous online for that long, you know what works and what doesn't. Content creators aren't stupid. They know what they're doing most of the time when it comes to dropping hints about a relationship, when it comes to pretending to be flirting with someone or not flirting with someone. Like, content creators know what they're doing. And it became pretty evident that especially the Dolan twins in their editing style really leaned into semi-confirming Ethma to gain more traction for their particular videos. Especially if you watch them, they leave in little sound bites that are up to interpretation of if they were talking about Emma or not. But Ethma was just a huge deal at this time, and it got into an even bigger deal when around Christmas time they posted another collaboration together. This one has the infamous Vegas vlog, which has been viewed over 38 million times. This vlog is kind of iconic in the Sister Squad lore. And honestly, I don't even like most of these creators except Emma. To be fair, the video is so entertaining for some reason. There's something that was put into that video that just makes it fun to watch. I've rewatched it multiple times just for fun, just because I remember that it exists. It's a fun video. And again, I think this video really solidified where it just seemed like they were four friends. They went on a vacation together and filmed some parts of it. I think the best part was they didn't even really film a ton of content from this trip. Like at one point they all just went shopping together and you barely got any footage of them shopping, but then they're just like hanging out after, showing each other what they bought. And after looking through a lot of Reddit posts about the Sister Squad, it seems like this video, specifically the Vegas vlog, is considered somewhat of a Roman Empire for a lot of people, something they go back to a lot and rewatch a lot to remember this time on the internet. And during this sort of phase of videos, the Christmas videos that they did, it sort of developed into two dynamics of the group. There was the dynamic of Ethma, which that was just a whole explosion of a thing. There was, oh my god, there was like Polaroid pictures on her wall that people saw in an interview that they zoomed in on that were a grainy photo of her maybe kissing Ethan. In the Vegas vlog, you can see that she was sleeping next to him in the one bed that all four of them had to share. He had her foundation on his shirt in a video. He had glitter on his lips from like her lip balm in one video. Fans were crazy. Like, people were absolute sleuths about this shit. I think too, the reason people were so into it was because Emma Chamberlain had previously been a massive fan of the Dolan twins and had actively talked about being in love with the Dolan twins, and she actually had said that she was obsessed with Grayson Dolan. So I think that was the other reason people really hyped it up and got super into it, is like she was a fan living out like what most fans' dreams were, which is to be hanging out and potentially dating one of them. The other dynamic that started forming was between Grayson and James Charles. It is definitely a weird situation to just like discuss casually. The trope that they put forth in their videos, Grayson and James, was that James was like in love with Grayson and Grayson was like super uncomfortable about it. And while Grayson hasn't really talked about this, James has said that both of them leaned into this trope because it got them more comments, more sort of interactions on videos, more attention. So they both leaned into this trope of, you know, James loving Grayson and Grayson not loving him back. So they sort of were separated into these like two groups at this point, which is interesting because it kind of matched their personalities too. Emma and Ethan were more funny and goofy and not super serious, and Grayson and James were more serious and analytical about things, which again just played into what people would talk about in comment sections, which is that they all identified with one person or the other. Now, I think one of the only reasons that this part of the video sits kind of badly with me, especially given everything that's happened, is that the punchline of the joke between Grayson and James was that Grayson was uncomfortable or not giving consent to these comments being made or to being touched. Even though James has said pretty explicitly that it was agreed upon mutually, and Grayson's never commented on it, so we can only go off James's word. I still think the message is kind of weird to be putting that out there to a young fan base, a young impressionable fan base, just in terms of consent, like not even the fact that it was two boys. Mutual and positive consent in all forms should just be something that we talk about more in general. So I think that was kind of the only thing that was weird about that whole situation. But young people obviously don't think that seriously about things, so they were all hyping up these two interactions between the two of them. I also think and will fully acknowledge that I might be more critical about that situation now that everything has come out about James Charles. So I'd be interested to know what you guys think about that dynamic. Am I the only one that thought that was like a weird joke or a weird bit that was happening, or am I just like overthinking it? Just let me know. So because of all of this, because of the mutual friend group, because of the suspected romantic relationships, these videos did crazy well. And what I don't think is talked about enough is the absolutely insane amount of money that these videos probably made. Like, we're talking millions and millions of dollars between all of these videos. And the group itself had become so popular and sort of redefined collaborations on YouTube that in 2018, they were actually all in YouTube Rewind together. They were all in a car in outer space. I'll put the clip in here. But they were all in YouTube Rewind together with the license plate of the car saying Sister Squad. Like this was becoming a massive, huge thing that every time a Sister Squad collaboration dropped, the internet just kind of stopped and millions of people went to go watch the videos immediately. It was an unprecedented level of success from this type of collaboration. Before this, we had seen collaborations with content houses. We had the Team 10 house with the Dolan twins were actually recruited for but didn't do, which was smart on their part. You had Logan Paul's sort of crew. We had like the lifestyle girlies and their whole genre of a billion of them just like being best friends and all being in videos together. But I think again, the small things that the Sister Squad did differently is what made them so freaking infamous on the internet. However, in December of 2018, it started to feel like things were a little bit off with the videos, especially in the one that was posted for Christmas time that was making gingerbread houses together. The vibe of the video starts off super weird. It seems like Emma and Ethan were fighting the whole video. It seems like James and Grayson were having a lot of issues in the video. Most of the video is sped up and skipped over, and a lot of the content is not really interesting to watch or fun to watch. They literally start off the video saying this is the second time they were filming it because the first time they filmed it, it was so boring and so bland and there were so many issues and that none of them were feeling it that day. So at this point, it's a curious kind of thing because you have to wonder, was the chemistry so off because they were just having off days, which can definitely happen. I think in my opinion, what probably started to happen is that the four of them did start out as friends, but then content sort of got in the way, especially the content and the fan speculation and the drama sort of got in the way of genuine friendships and genuine hangout time. And even in that video, the Dolan twins kind of insinuate that James Charles is making a ton of money from the video that he's making with them so that he should have to clean up the kitchen afterwards instead of them or something like that. I don't know, you can just tell that sort of the whole vibe of the group is completely off, and it's interesting that these were some of the last videos that were posted of all four of them together. I also quickly, just talking about like Emma and Ethan specifically in this video, I just want to like sidebar real quick and say the pressure of being in your first real relationship and it being this big internet relationship where you're in all these videos together but you're still trying to keep it incredibly private, you're not trying to confirm anything, but maybe you're fighting with your partner that day and you still have to film this whole freaking video. Like the pressure of all of that, I think at the time they were both 17, around 17, is crazy. That's like not talked about enough here. These were all still kids at this point. I think Emma was 17 and James and the Dolan twins were like 18, 19 at this point in time. They were all still incredibly young people to be having this amount of success success. And also, when you're that young, sometimes you just have friends that you're best friends with for like 7 months, and then you just slowly drift apart and don't really talk to them anymore. Because you're at such a weird point in life where everything's really changing, you're becoming an official adult, and friendships can be kind of fickle and unclear. Like, I was friends with people when I was 19 that I would have told you were going to be in my literal wedding, and I don't speak to them anymore. It just happened. Friendships ebb and flow. You fall in with friends, you fall out with friends. It seemed like this friendship had kind of run its course when they made these final videos, but the reason that they even posted the videos in the first place is probably just because they made so much freaking money from them. Like, they were almost in a position where they had to keep filming together even though the dynamic was clearly slowing down because they made too much money to not do it. So by this point, everything that had made them so fun and interesting to watch in the first place, which is that it seemed like they were all genuinely just friends who were hanging out, was kind of gone. The magic was starting to disappear from the Sister Squad videos. Now, obviously in May of 2019, Sister Geddon occurred, and I'm not going to go back and recap all of Sister Geddon. I'm pretty sure I have videos detailing all of those as they happened in real time and as internet history videos. We don't have to relive that entire drama, but I think it's interesting the impact and effect that it had on the Sister Squad. The day that Tati's video first dropped, the Dolan twins and Emma Chamberlain both publicly unfollowed James Charles, kind of showing their lack of support for him and choosing a side which was not his side. So while they didn't publicly say on their platforms, like, we don't support James Charles anymore, the unfollowing spoke volumes, especially to fans. Also during this time, Jeffree Star came out and basically said that Grayson Dolan was going to expose James Charles, which James Charles in his video strongly refuted. He said that Jeffree was just trying to use Grayson, and that him, Grayson, and Ethan were all still on the same page, that they were actually the first people that called him when Tati's video dropped. James tried to maintain that the three of them were all good friends, that the Dolan twins and Emma Chamberlain have still never publicly spoken about what happened during this time that led to all three of them unfollowing him and what actually went on behind the scenes, which I think is kind of fascinating. Like, it's been years since all of this happened, obviously, but we still don't really know what led to them ultimately unfollowing. I will say I think it's interesting that the vibes had been so off in that last round of collaborations, and then they unfollowed him very quickly after a scandal. I think it does point to that they had all kind of just like run its course and figured out that this was mostly just like a PR friendship at this point. So when the PR wasn't good for James, rightfully so, they left. Now, after the whole Bi-Sister scandal happened and all of these different things sort of occurred, all of this was happening, but in June of 2019, the four of them were never on camera again, but Emma and the Dolan twins did do a two-way collaboration together. And this was insane for the fandom at the time, because at the time, the fandom definitely thought that they were just never going to see these people on camera together again. They definitely thought the Sister Squad was like DOA. And I will say, these videos did pretty well, honestly, all things considered. But I find it interesting that they made this move, only because, number one, these videos did not have the same feel of the first couple of videos. It felt very forced. They felt very PR friendship sort of situations. Even Emma's video, which normally those are the most like relaxed and down to earth, even hers felt pretty forced. It was interesting to me that they made this move because this was kind of after the Bi-Sister scandal, when James Charles's reputation had been somewhat restored a little bit. His No More Lies video had gotten this incredible public response, and he'd sort of been like uncanceled in a lot of people's mind. So it kind of made people speculate that there was an issue within the group that went further than just the Bi-Sister situation. It seemed like there was stuff happening behind the scenes, and while there's a lot of that people didn't really know about that led to the four of them not being friends anymore, that it wasn't just Tati's video. And while there's a lot of speculation on this, a lot of the speculation on it is like very deeply personal, upsetting things. So I'm not really going to get into too many of the fan theories on what ultimately led to them breaking up. But I will say there's definitely a lot of theories out there that point to the four of them not being friends with James for a lot of personal reasons, and not just because he was canceled. And now, while these two videos still did pretty well, it wasn't the same vibe, it wasn't the same feel, and I think that the Dolan twins and Emma Chamberlain also knew that, because that was the last time they ever collaborated. It's also speculated that Emma and Ethan broke up pretty shortly after these videos, because a few months later, Ethan went public with another girl that he was starting to date at the time. Now, moving forward to today, Emma Chamberlain went on Call Her Daddy back in 2022, and she definitely talked about how when she first moved to LA, there was a lot of toxic people that were really just using her for clout and fame. And even though there's a few people that she could be talking about, it's pretty heavily implied that some of the people she's talking about are the Sister Squad members. And as far as the Dolan twins go, they actually left YouTube in 2021, and they have quite literally never once spoken about the Sister Squad again. They don't even acknowledge that it's a thing that happened. Like, James has mentioned it, Emma has indirectly mentioned it. The Dolan twins acted like it never happened, and as their channel sort of started to decrease in popularity, and as a result of their father passing away, in 2021 they left the public eye completely, which is still kind of just crazy to me that they did that. They still had such a huge following and a huge fan base, and it really shows that their hearts were just not in it anymore. Not even in a collaborative way, but just the two of them together, they weren't in it anymore. So they kind of left the whole internet sensation thing behind. Now, interestingly, back in 2020, Emma and James actually did collaborate again. In James's video, he did her makeup, and they sort of talked about the Sister Squad drama indirectly. But it was weird. They didn't directly say anything, but sort of just indirectly were talking about, I don't even know how to describe it. It's hard because the video is not online anymore. You can't really find it because Emma Chamberlain deleted it off of her YouTube channel, which is just a whole other layer of what the fuck was going on with these people. Like I said, that video got deleted pretty shortly after it went up on her channel. And I think that actually makes a lot of sense because shortly after that video was posted, there was another massive thing with James Charles where he was being accused of a ton of different things. He was just being accused left and right of abusing minors. And I think Emma wanted no part of that, and rightfully so. Don't blame her. Like, absolutely don't blame her for wanting no part of that. As of today, though, we really don't see or hear anything about the Sister Squad anymore, which I think is so interesting because it's still so relevant. Like, people still bring up this part of YouTube history all the time. Emma now posts pretty much only solo content videos. She doesn't do collaborations at all. And she's sort of transcended YouTube fame. Again, I think I want to do an update about her because her career trajectory is so freaking fascinating right now. She's like transcended YouTube fame and become just like a regular lifestyle celebrity. It's absolutely fascinating. The Dolan twins left the internet, like I said, and it seems like they're happy and thriving. They get posted occasionally because someone spots them. I think one of them, Ethan? Is Ethan engaged? One of them's engaged. I'm asking like I should know that. Pretty sure it's Ethan who got engaged and they announced that. But yeah, nobody really hears from them anymore. And honestly, I have the utmost respect to them for taking this time away from YouTube and really leaving when they said they were going to leave. You see a lot of creators that are like, oh, I'm going to quit YouTube. And then they come back in like a day because they're like, never mind, my mental health doesn't matter that much because I make more money doing this. They actually were like, yeah, our mental health is really suffering from this, so we're going to walk away. And no matter what the money is or the cost would be. And I have the utmost respect for that decision. I think that's fantastic. As far as James Charles, James sort of tried to recreate the success of the Sister Squad, but with TikTokers. It was him, Charlie and Dixie D'Amelio, Larry, Lil Huddy, and Noah Beck. He tried to recreate these videos. They did not land. He even did the same concept, the one where they all gave each other Christmas presents. He did the same concept with the TikTok friends. It just wasn't the same. He was trying to force something. They absolutely felt like PR relationships from the start. None of those people are really friends anymore. From what I can tell, none of them are super close with each other anymore, or if they are, they don't talk about it, that's for sure. I think at the end of the day, the Sister Squad can definitely be seen like friends you had in high school. Like, you have really good times together and you laugh a lot, and then you all kind of have drama go down, and then you graduate and just like move on with life. But the problem with this one was that 70 million people were all watching and commentating on what was going down with this friendship. Which I think is definitely very unhealthy and very toxic for young minds. I also think too that they did not invent friendships on the internet. They did not invent group collaborations of friends on the internet. That's been going on since the beginning of YouTube, really. But I think they were definitely some of the most successful at the genre. They had huge success at the genre of making YouTube friendships. And I think they did that by being a mix of genuine and also people just wanted the tea. Like, people just wanted to know if Ethmo was real, you know? They used both things to be so successful. I think that people and fans that watch this content can tell when something is genuine and when it's not. And I also think people do low-key follow stuff like this so closely just to see the rise and the fall of this sort of situation, of these friendships, because it's very rare that you have internet friendships that last the test of time. So while this group of creators is not unique in this particular obsession, like most really huge content creators have this parasocial relationship with people, they're definitely a group that popularized it 100% and absolutely have their place in YouTube history. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, or just subscribe, or do neither. Honestly, just so happy you're here watching me. Thank you for being here. Like I said before, you can follow me on Instagram, on TikTok, on literally nothing else. That's all I got. You can follow me on those 2 platforms. Oh, Twitter. I have a Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter too if you want. Sometimes I tweet. Sorry, it's X now, whatever. It's Twitter. You can follow me there. And also down below is going to be my link to register to vote, and also my social justice spotlight, which currently is highlighting organizations and charities that you can donate to helping the victims in Palestine. So go check those out down below. And yeah, I think that's it. Good to be back. I love you guys. I've missed you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!